70 to 90% of M&A deals are going to fail to achieve their financial value because of people issue, culture clash, poor communication. I think companies know, leaders know, but they forget. They forget. It's an easy topic to forget. So I think one of the guiding principles here is to be patient, to be thorough in the approach. It's not a sprint, it's a marathon. Doesn't happen overnight. Be patient and thorough. People are asking questions. So if you don't answer them, the rumor mills is going to start,
Yeah.
and they're going to start making up their own answer. And you don't want that. 30% of failed mergers are due to cultural misalignment, because sometimes when two companies go together or when you integrate one into another, it's almost like people don't speak the same language. Change is the only constant. Everybody's unique. The speed at which we react to change will be different.
Hello, everyone. Today we are here for another round of discussion, and our podcast topic is beyond the chain management. Beyond the deal, chain management. So, chain management, if you look at, is widely considered among most underestimated, it very critical, success factor for any post merger integration. Now, if you look at most of research shows that 90% of M&A deals fail to achieve their intended financial value, and the chain management is one of the critical factor. And I see that many people don't really consider as so serious topic. Now we have Vajin Kola, which is a strategic communication and chain management advisor. And welcome you, Vani. Vajin
Hello.
Kola.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
Sure. So if you just give some background about yourself and how this topic is so important, I'll have a couple of questions from you. But I would like to get your background more for and about your work to my audience.
Yes, absolutely. So I am a marketing, communication, and change management professional with about 20 years of experience. I started my career in France. I'm French, and I've moved to the US. So I'm now based in Providence, Rhode Island. And I've been here for the past 12 years now. I've been working at Schneider Electric for the past 20 years until the end of last year. And through this experience, I built my experience working on transformations in marketing, in communication, and specifically in the field of mergers and acquisitions and integration. And even more specifically here in the streams that's involving communications and change management, which is often undervalued, underestimated, understaffed. We're going to talk about all of this, but things are evolving, I think, in this topic. So now, with all this experience, it's a topic that's a passion of mine, change management. It's always been a passion of mine. I find it fascinating to see how people are changing and evolving, especially when they're are in the middle of a transformation. And it's also a very humbling experience when you work on this and you really try to help people and companies moving from this point A to point B. So I'm very happy to be here with you and to talk about this topic.
Sure. So I think, Valen, we had worked together at the same team, and
Yeah.
I know a lot of things, but for my audience, maybe if you can give, I know that high level you have given your background, but what especially you have been managing in chain management and communication. I know communication itself is a big topic, right?
Yeah. So I'm specialized in internal communication, more specifically, which is the key part of a change management plan. And I worked a lot on mergers and acquisitions. So in this context, I was usually the lead of the internal communication work stream, which is a key stream that's helping out putting together a communications plan internally, working with all of the different teams within, like an integration. So I've been working on that, working on change management. But in addition to specifically M&A, I've also worked on multiple transformational projects, usually in the marketing field, like organization transformation or implementing a new tool or a new process. And I've always been involved, again, in the change management aspects of things and internal communications aspects of things. And in the M&A, just going back to that, I was involved in like small scale integration, larger scale integration, usually global. I've done a few local acquisitions that I've handled, again, in on the communication and change management aspects, local or global. But yeah, that's a little bit my span of experience.
Sure. So, you know, how and why chain management is so critical for M&A and especially in case of post-merger integration.
Well, I think you've mentioned it at the beginning, and I'd like to remind everybody that the reason is it is a critical success factor. Like the research is showing that 70 to 90% of M&A deals are going to fail to achieve their financial value because of people issue, culture clash, poor communication, and all of this is handled with change management. So it's easy. If you want your deal to succeed and to have a better chance of succeeding, and by that I mean long term, right? Like long term success, you need to have some kind of a change management approach in place. That's the reason right there.
Right. But why, so important topic? I see people really miss in the initial planning whenever doing integration planning. I have seen because we have worked together, so I've seen you considering that, and that was one of the work stream for us. But especially in many company, I have not seen this. So why this is a big challenge?
I think companies know, leaders know, but they forget. They forget. It's an easy topic to forget because their priority is on something else. There's always an excess focus on financial synergies. That's the most important versus people. There's usually insufficient resources. So where you're going to put your resources in is on those other topics you're focusing on, which is not going to be change management. And there's an underestimating of cultural integration. And again, all of this is within the change management. It's always listed as the most common pitfalls of why M&A fails. And it's also like it's a soft thing, right? Like change management communication, it's soft. So I think the deliverable is hard to grasp. And the amount of energy and resources you need to put is, I mean, you need to put quite a good amount of effort in it. So I think it's more subtle to grasp the deliverables. So because of that, because it's not as tangible as a number at the end of your Excel file,
Yeah.
we just tend to forget and we just put it on the side, unfortunately.
Right. So I know this is one of the big challenge I have spoken to, some of other M&A, executives, and they also feel the same. So now, what are the key guiding principles when it comes to change management in the context of M&A?
Yeah. So, look, I'm not going to give a course on change management. People can Google this at their own time. I really want to share what I've seen and what I've observed. So, first of all, change doesn't happen overnight.
Right.
It takes time, it takes commitment. It's a long term commitment. So, I think one of the guiding principles here is to be patient, to be thorough in the approach. It's not a sprint, it's a marathon.
Yeah.
So doesn't happen overnight. Be patient and thorough. The second thing that I've seen is customization of a plan, of a change management plan is critical. What do I mean by that? So when you work on change management, one of the first steps is usually to list all the stakeholders that are going to be involved in your change. Would it be from the EVP, like your executive, or groups of people?
Yeah.
And what I've seen is that the more you customize the actions you're going to take towards each stakeholder, individual or group,
Mm.
the more you're going to customize the message that you're going to share with them, the better your chances of success will be. Why? Because you're giving people the what's in it for them.
Right.
And when you talk to them more in that, like, more personalized approach, it's just easier. The changes is easier to absorb, to understand, and they really feel like you're talking to them like you understand them. So customization is key in terms of tactics you're gonna do and messages you're going to share. Like, know who you speak to and really customize, like, what's in it for them. Leadership engagement is also critical. Um, One of the key success factors and guiding principles I've seen is that the more you have your leaders that are engaged in the communication, in the change management, again, better chance of success. So it's really important to have the leaders really aware and a promoter of a change management approach. If they don't believe in it,
Yeah.
it's gonna be difficult. It's gonna be difficult.
Right.
Um,
Mm.
yeah,
So one question here, one additional point I have. So it means having a change manager as a role. Somebody should take the charge of
absolutely.
that. Would be
Absolutely.
critical. Yeah.
Absolutely. Dedicating a resource. I know sometimes, it will depend on the size of the deal, the stakes, the size of the company, but having a dedicated resource on change management, usually with communication, it kind of goes together. Um, Obviously, it's critical. And I would even say that person needs to be strongly connected with the leaders, with the integration manager, with the executives. Like, you have to have this tight connection,
Yeah.
um, and you need to start early. Don't appoint a person the day you're signing. It's too late.
Yeah.
The day you're closing. You need to do this before, because that person needs to be there to understand the rationale, the stakes, where can the resistance come from. So the earlier you can have that person, the better.
Yeah.
Um,
Think much before closing the deal. That's what you meant here.
Totally. Exactly. Yes, before closing. Absolutely. Start early. But continuing on the guiding principles and on that person we just talked about, that resource. Another thing is communicates, communicates, and communicates. One of the key principles here.
Mm.
Repetitions fixes the notion, like, and even more so in periods of change. People are asking questions. So if you don't answer them, the rumor mills is going to start,
Yeah.
and they're going to start making up their own answer, and you don't want that. So over communicating is okay. If you don't know, that's okay. Address it. Say, you know what? There's a question. We don't have the answer. We're working on it. But communication, like over communicating, is also one of the things that I've seen that is really needed in this aspects of the change when you're going through a change like that. Um, a few other guiding principles: be flexible.
Yeah.
Uh, it's not
Mm.
like this, right? It's not
Yeah.
linear. It's gonna go like this with up and downs all the time. So as you move forward into the different milestones of a deal and of, M&A, you'll have to adapt, change the messaging, the tactics. Sometimes we're taking a step back. That's okay. But being flexible is important, especially when working with people. And then the last thing is be compassionate and understanding, because again, we're working with people here. When you want to move them from A to B, they have questions, there's anxiety, there's stress. So it's important to understand the environment that people are working in, and to understand and listen to them.
Right. So I think you have summed up very well. I think this is some of the questions which generally people ask: where to start, how to start, when, whether the communication is too much sometime. So whether it's right approach or we should do or we should not do. So this type of questions are coming, especially for many people who have been part of this deal.
Yeah.
So if you look at your career, if I look at mostly you have been in this either a small deal, local deals, or international deals, or large size deals. But if you look at what are the best practices, what you can tell to our audience that, okay, this is something you must do. This is something is optional but nice to have.
Yeah, so I'm going to share a few examples of the things I've done and my team has done when we worked on some of those M&As and integration. And you're going to see a similarity with the guiding principles I shared.
Yeah.
So one of the first best practice that I came across was when you close and you like going into like those first few steps, having some kind of a welcome element is something that people are always very eager to see. So I've worked in the past on like welcome kits, welcome events, um like, yeah, having this kind of like welcoming the people, like, when you do a deal, it's always good. And then you can have like a message from the leadership, the welcome events, like people really feel like onboarded and like,
Yeah.
engaged in like part of the story and the next steps of that story together. So that kind of welcoming element always worked. And it gives a good sign from the beginning.
Yeah.
So that would be one of the best practices I've seen. Something else I talked about is having that dedicated resource
Yeah.
that we just
That's important.
connected with the leadership and early engagement of that resource. Like the earlier that resource on change and communication can be onboarded, usually the better, because that person can really, really be integrated into what's going to happen. And it's just better to work on the plans and the tactics and, the messaging moving forward. Um, Another one is assessing,
Hmm.
taking a quick pulse
Hmm.
on how the people are reacting to the change.
Right.
So the methods here are very different. Like you could go for a survey that you launch to everybody to kind of survey how they're feeling, how engaged, if they have questions. Or I've also seen another approach, and they can both be complementary. It's to take more of a sample population. So instead of sending to everybody, you just take a sample of your employees and you send a short, like quick pulse survey, like 2, 3 questions,
Okay.
and you repeat this every month or every quarter in a different on a different sample, and that can kind of give you a trend. So that's another way. But assessing somehow where you are, what people are thinking, um, assessing on a scale their satisfaction, their engagement. It's really important. Like usually when we do M&A, an integration after, um, it's really hard to also keep people, like the retention aspects. Like some people might decide to leave because it's uncomfortable. So being able to assess where they are and how they feel, I think is a good indication. And then it helps you adjust your plan, right? Because you have numbers so you can see. And if you add questions like, what are your comments? What are your questions? It's easier to also incorporate some of the answers they're looking for into the tactics you have on your plan. So assessing as very important. And then another best practices, which I'm sure you could talk about in length, but I know when it succeeded, it was when this was in place. And by this, I mean following a process. And for change management and communication, like if you clearly lay out all the steps you need to do, is just easier to tackle because those topics may seem very overwhelming. So if you know, like, okay, step number 1, this is what I'm gonna do. Number 2, number 3, number 4. Whatever your steps are, I think it's easier to just move forward. The culture aspects,
Yes.
is also something I seen, and when it was approached and it was, approached and, like, taken care of, the success of the deal was better. It's that, you know, tackling that cultural compatibility between
Yeah.
companies when you integrate or when you do a merge. Um, I actually have a stat here. 30% of failed mergers are due to cultural misalignment. So addressing that cultural aspects is critical because sometimes when two companies go together or when you integrate one into another, it's almost like people don't speak the same language.
Yeah.
So sometimes they're going to say something and then the other team is going to say something. They think they understand, they don't.
Yeah.
And then there's like a little bit of a, oh no, we're stuck. So making sure teams understand how to speak to each other, how to work together,
Yeah.
and that kind of cultural integration is key. And again, that's part of your change management plan.
Right.
So yeah, best practice, this is also, I think, a topic that is critical to address.
Sure. Thanks. I think these are very insightful. So I have additional question. So think about company who have not started, they're starting a new deal and they have never considered change management as a topic for their company. How and where they should start?
Okay, I would say first, take a step back and breathe. Because I mean, it is overwhelming. It is a stressful environment anyway when we're doing a deal, right? But it's not rocket science,
Yeah.
you know? It's like very step by step, very easy to approach. So that's the first thing. Second thing, appoint someone to handle the topic. Like if you're a leader, if you're an integration manager, you're a leader, you're going through a deal, make sure you have a resource. Maybe it won't be a full-time resource. That's okay because, again, depending on the size of your company, of the deal, you might not have a tremendous amount of resource you can dedicate, but I would really recommend dedicating a resource and some budget to this initiative. I think it's key. And if you can have an expert on change management and communication, it's even better. Like someone that will know a change management methodology
Yeah.
that they can follow and they can help you move through this topic. And then you need a plan. Like that person will work on a plan.
Yeah.
And if I can share, I have like my toolbox of very easy to use tools that are kind of building your foundation when you start on a change management topic. And what are those? The first one is the vision, the
Yeah.
pitch, the elevator pitch, which usually when you do a deal, the leaders, they have that, they know that. It's what's the change? Why are we doing it? The rationale behind
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
So that's key. Once you have that, another key thing is your stakeholder mapping. So, I mentioned this at the beginning. Mapping all the individuals or the group of individuals that will be involved in your deal. So you can, for each one of them, you can determine, is this person a promoter
Yeah.
or is this person a detractor? And then you can work on, okay, this person is a detractor. I need to spend more time with this person or this group of people to move them from a detractor to a promoter.
Yeah.
So with your stakeholder mapping, you can really prioritize your groups and decide who's going to speak to them,
Yeah.
what are you going to tell them, and how are you going to approach them. And right there, it's your base, it's the starting point of a change management plan. Some other tools I like, it's what's changing, what's not changing. That's always good to map because sometimes there's a lot of things that's gonna change,
Yeah.
but it's also reassuring to sometimes say, well, actually, this, and this is gonna stay the same. So it's good to have it somewhere so you can visualize it. And then mapping resistance.
Mhm.
So there's will be, because it's the human nature. There will be a lot of people resisting, especially, when like you're in this stressful environment, people are going to be concerned about their job.
Yeah.
Do I still have a job? Where am I going to be in the organization? What am I going to do? Usually those are the main questions that come up. So it's important to map what the resistances are going to be. So you're aware. And then for each of them, you can think about, okay, what are we going to do about it? And what's the messages going to be? So you kind of anticipate what those blocks, resistances, challenges are going to be so you can better address them. And then once you have that, you can have your full-blown plan, with timeline, deliverables, like all of those things, um, mapped according to the milestones of the deal and, of the merger, because it's all needs to be aligned. So sometimes there's like 100-day plan,
Yeah.
a 1-year plan. So you really like, and again, the expert, that's the point, it can help that, but you really have to align the change management plan with the communication plan, with the project timeline, the
Yeah. Also, the people who are going to drive certain things, right, within change management plan, there could be
absolutely.
different drivers. Yeah.
Yes. Yes, totally. And then on this plan, you can like there's like full details on what's the actions going to be, the tactics, the when, the where, the what are we going to say, to whom, et cetera, et cetera. But with all the tools I've mentioned before, that's going to help you build the change management plan. So to recap, appoint someone, like if you don't know where to start, get an expert on board early and close connection with the leadership or the integration manager, for example. Um, get like a foundation
Yeah.
with those tools, the
Mm.
pitch, what's changing, stakeholder mapping, resistance, and then full blown plan.
Right. So I think this is very, very good insight for our audience, and especially people who are starting change management from scratch in for the future deals. Okay.
Yes.
So I think for my audience, I need one answer, one takeaway which are very critical. I know that your playbook of change management is very critical, but apart from this, anything you would like to have, something which people can remember,
You
you
have
can
to.
go ahead with two.
So the first one is change is the only constant. Like remember this. There's change like everywhere all the time. And the second thing I want to share is that I think everybody's unique. Like each of us, we have different needs that are evolving according to where we are in life, right? And because of that, the way we react to change, the speed at which we react to change, will be different. So we need to feel reassured, especially again in those stressful moments at work when like sometimes you're like, oh no, like what's gonna happen. So I think in order for people to feel reassured, engaged, motivated, to stay engaged, stay motivated, and to help them go from that point A to point B, you need to have a management approach, but you need to have it comprehensive and kind of multifaceted. So it addresses all the different needs of everybody. So, for example, someone may like to be informed by their manager.
Yes.
So, have something that really involves middle management so they can talk to their managers. Other people may like to have their information because they're going to be deeply involved in like doing things. So involve them. Other people may want to listen to things. So
Mm.
have something where people can just consume at their own pace. It's like we need to, because everybody's different. So we need to address all those different needs. And I think the more you can have various different little actions and initiatives to address everybody, the better. It's not one size fits all. So I think you'll have a better chance of success.
Yeah. So I think that's good point. I think this is something which will help for companies even who are building this team, starting their change management and internal communication as a practice. Because I know many companies they don't have a dedicated resource to do this. But I think your playbook is very helpful. I got very deep inside, and thanks for your time. And I think I know this topic. If I leave you, you'll have whole day. You can keep talking about this.
Oh, for sure. We can talk about it all day. Absolutely.
Thanks for your time and thank you, audience. We'll have this podcast live for everyone to listen. If you have any additional question, we'll be happy to bring back to you and you can answer that. Thank you. Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you very much. Thank you.